In this episode, guys, battle breakdown, Kharkiv. Let's jump right into it. Kharkiv is Ukraine's second largest city and is located just 30 kilometers or 19 miles south of the Russia-Ukraine border. It was considered a major target for the Russian military early in the invasion. Initiated on the 24th of February, the Russian offensive caught the Ukrainian forces off guard. Neither military experts nor the Ukrainian government had seriously considered the possibility that an offensive might extend beyond the Donbass region. Within 24 hours, Russian troops reached the northern suburbs of Kharkiv, but the fighting stalled. Despite their greater numbers, the Russian forces did not manage to enter the city. In mid-May, the Russians, who had still not managed to surround Kharkiv, finally retreated. Blocked on the city's outskirts, the Russian army unleashed a deluge of fire on Kharkiv.
This is a soldier. He's got in his pockets what look like. These are the patches these are the patches he says he's taken from
Russian Federation.
the Russian Federation.
Kharkiv has been a major objective for the Russians pretty much from the beginning of this conflict. It has seen some of the fiercest fighting so far in this war. As the hours and days go by, we're seeing more and more targeting of civilian sites, and we're seeing a lot more civilian deaths and casualties there.
A Russian military convoy 60 kilometers long is bearing down on the Ukrainian capital Kiev, according to newly released satellite images. The pictures released by the Maxar Technologies company appear to show armoured vehicles, tanks, artillery and logistical vehicles. The front of the convoy is said to be less than 30 kilometers from the centre of Kiev. Elsewhere in Ukraine, officials have just confirmed that 70 soldiers were killed in a Russian artillery strike on their military base on Sunday. And the Ukrainian president, Mr. Zelensky, says that the heavy bombardment of Kharkiv, in which dozens of people were reportedly killed, amounts to a war crime. Mark LaBelle reports.
Under siege, Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, where it looks like Russia is using cluster bombs, according to military experts.
This is a residential area with no military objects.
Kharkiv's mayor says shells hit residential buildings, killing innocent civilians, and says 3 children were burned alive in a car. As President Zelensky put it,
this is clearly a war crime. Peaceful city, peaceful residential area, no military facilities.
Fighting in Ukraine enters its 7th day. Russian troops have landed in the northeastern city of Kharkiv and attacked one of its military hospitals, according to the Ukrainian Independent Information Agency and Ukrainian military officials. Let's take a look at the map of Ukraine, which shows the territory controlled by Russia. Russian troops are reported to have seized control of the southern city of Kherson. If confirmed, it would be the biggest city to fall since the fighting began. James Reynolds has more.
At night, in Ukraine's second city of Kharkiv, there is little rest. Reports this morning say that Russian paratroopers have landed in the city as part of an aerial assault. These strikes follow this missile blast outside a government building early yesterday morning. In Kharkiv now, the simple act of going outside has become a risk.
For Ukrainians, Kharkiv is a city known for poetry, art, trade, industry, scientific discovery, and now as one of the key linchpins in the fight for Ukraine's future. A mere 25 miles from Russia, Ukraine's second largest city has faced some of the fiercest battles since Russian troops, tanks and warplanes pushed across the border. Kharkiv was long considered a likely target in the lead up to Russia's invasion, as Moscow amassed forces in a staging area in Belgorod, 90 minutes northeast of the city. In setting its sights on Kharkiv, the Kremlin may have believed it would face less resistance because of the city's predominantly Russian-speaking population, assumed to be more sympathetic to Moscow. Many in Kharkiv had family or did business just across the border, in Mordor itself. First founded in 1654, the The city's university life became a centre of the Ukrainian national movement in the 1820s, said Timothy Schneider, a professor of history at Yale University. Kharkiv later was chosen as the new Soviet Republic of Ukraine's first capital from 1920 to 1934. In the 1920s, it was the world centre for Ukrainian culture, said Schneider. Soviet leaders initially supported the city's development of art and literature, only for this generation of Ukrainian makers of culture to die during the purges of the 1930s. Further death loomed during Ukraine's Great Famine from 1932 to 1933, a man-made calamity caused by Soviet agriculture and redistribution policies. Kharkiv became the city where peasants went to die, as the starving gathering in the city begged for money, according to Schneider. But everybody's desperate to be a Russian, aren't they? At least according to the Russians. I imagine it was quite a shock then, because when they reached Kharkiv, the Russians encountered ferocious local resistance on the streets that lasted for several months, and they ultimately failed to conquer the city. Some of the fiercest fighting of the war in 2022 happened in and around Kharkiv. International human rights groups reported Russian forces' use of internationally banned cluster munitions in residential areas, and Ukrainian authorities say that over 600 civilians were killed during the attacks. The 2022 battle for Kharkiv proved militarily and psychologically momentous, as Ukraine's forces managed to hold off and eventually defeated some of Russia's most elite fighting units. The Russians felt so confident, in fact, they were even sending convoys of Oman, which is a special unit in the Russian military, basically riot police. And these stupid little twats were supposed to roll up into Kharkiv and control the civilian population there. But as you can see, this convoy didn't have a very good day out. Lots of potatoes were issued here. The light-armoured Rosgvardia force, traditionally sent in to hold populations, was in some cases sent out in front. You have Rosgvardia units getting themselves killed because they thought they were going to go into these cities and take over without any support or coordination with the actual Russian military, said Kaufman, military analyst. Russian units really were operating in the first part of the war as though they were still driving around in their own country. Well, fuck around and find out, eh? An estimated 20,000 Russians crossed over the border and headed towards their objective of Kharkiv. They were met by the Ukrainian 92nd Brigade, who clashed with them over a 100-kilometre front. Part of the body of forces broke off towards Vovchansk. After a short battle, the Russians captured the city. They also began to move towards Izium, and the encirclement of Kharkiv began from the northern and eastern directions. The Russians failed to enter Kharkiv on the 24th. According to Ukrainian Pravda, the Russians estimated it would take them 2 days to occupy the city. The captured Russian officer testified later that the city was expected to fall within 3 days. By the 25th of February, fierce fighting had broken out in the northern suburbs around Kharkiv. In the early morning of the 27th of February, Russian forces destroyed a gas pipeline in Kharkiv. It was also this day that would see heavy fighting in the city, with 2 companies of Russia's 2nd Guards Spetsnaz Brigade entering Kharkiv proper. The Russian companies were cut off as soon as they had advanced into the city. Ukrainian officials claim that their forces had destroyed at least 6 GAZ Tiger Ms, half of Russian military vehicles that had advanced into Kharkiv.
3-4 КАМАЗ. Ебать! С тяжелого стреляют в сторону домов. С гранатомета сейчас ебет. Пиздец, у нас стреляют. Ебать! Вот карапон. Спокойно достань. Слава Украине!
A fierce firefight broke out at school number 134 in Kharkiv. This would be the only building that the Russians managed to gain a foothold in. On the morning of the 28th of February, the Russian company, or what was left of it, broke out and rejoined the rest of the Russian force outside of the city. Following this, it was reported that Ukrainian forces had regained full control of the city. And now I'm not 100% sure on this, so hear me out. It's been a bit difficult to find information on the first stages of the war in Kharkiv. But from what I can gather, basically from the 28th of February now until the 2nd of April, there wasn't really any more attempts to actually assault Kharkiv, try and occupy it again. I'm sure there obviously was movement on the lines. Obviously, even when the lines aren't moving, people are dying, people are fighting. So it's disrespectful to say that nothing was happening. Of course, there was stuff happening. But as far as the information I can find, the litany of events that take place in between this time is just the normal Ruski Mir, what we've all, unfortunately, grown to know so well. Just the indiscriminate airstrikes and artillery strikes on the civilian population, on the city itself. But apart from that, there doesn't seem to have been, for what I can find, any more major assaults. And you might be there now saying, you're a complete fucking idiot. There's this and there's that. And if there is, please point it out to me, because don't get me wrong, I'm not here pretending that I'm an expert in any of this. But I am trying my best, but it is something that I do struggle with, trying to find more sort of comprehensive reports or detailed accounts of sort of individual actions, individual battles, things like that. So it could be that I'm just doing a shit job.
Well, we start tonight with a special report from the city of Kharkiv, less than 25 miles from the Russian border. It has faced relentless Russian missile strikes and shelling. Our correspondent Quentin Somerville and cameraman Darren Conway have spent time with two fighters who've been on the front line since the very beginning.
A month of fighting alone. And Russian guns still haven't silenced Ukraine's cry for freedom. At the Kharkiv Philharmonic, Maria Baranovska may not have an audience, but this isn't a city abandoned, only a city half gone. She remains here with her 10-month-old boy. Staying is her duty.
I believe in our victory. I know that the armed forces of Ukraine will protect their home. We just need to be a little bit more patient.
Standing united with the boys defending her and her son. A month ago, 22-year-old Vlad said goodbye to his own mother and went off to fight. He and fellow private, Mark, have been here ever since. They've quickly grown comfortable with war's daily tempo. They have the upper hand in Kharkiv. The first 3 days were the hardest when they drove the Russians out, but now their duties at this small base have fallen into a pattern. What are you fighting for?
For peace in Ukraine.
And what about you, Mark?
Like my comrade just said, for peace in Ukraine. These people came to our land. No one was waiting for them here. No one asked them to come.
And when you're speaking to your mother, to your girlfriends, what do you tell them?
Mainly we discuss the time when all of it will end, when we will come back to normal life, when everything will be good, and it won't be dangerous to go outside and have a walk.
And what do you want to tell the Russian soldiers that are shelling you?
Run. We were not calling you here. Run away. There is nothing else to say. Either you stay here forever, in the ground, or you go back home and stop killing children and destroying homes and families.
Go back home while you are still alive.
Their steady determination and a little help from Western weaponry have got them this far. It's time to head out to the front again. This, they say, is their land. They know these fields and villages better than the invaders. And here, amid the melting winter snows, they cover every inch of ground. Ukrainian mud is the defender's friend. Mark's foxhole has room for one and offers just about enough protection from exploding Russian shells. Suddenly, on the horizon, there is movement. An enemy scouting party is spotted. The Russians shoot back. But the danger here is artillery. Mark tells us we have to move. The Russians will definitely respond, he says, 100%. It's time to seek better cover. What is it like spending day and night out in those tiny, tiny little trenches?
The shifts are longer during the day, but at night when it's cold, we swap often.
It's okay, you get used to it. Humans can adapt. Humans can adapt to everything.
What's going on right now?
They are targeting our position.
The shells begin to land all around us, only meters away. You can see what they're up against here. This is daily, but the steadfastness of these men has been felt not just in Kharkiv, but around the world. They've had 4 weeks of this, and still they remain. The Russians haven't been able to break their lines, and this invasion might have come as a surprise to the rest of the world, but this is what they've been expecting and training for years. Unable to move, the shelling is relentless. These bombardments are endless. This is Russia's tactic of choice. We're told for the third time that day to get into a nearby underground shelter. Here, some sanctuary and a brief moment of respite for Vlad and Mark amid this unending chaos. A month into this war, Ukrainian confidence is growing, not weakening. While Russia stumbles, Ukraine stands firm. The Russians are pretty determined to break these lines. Are they going to get past here? Are they going to get past you and these men?
I think no. We will not surrender Kharkiv. Our loved ones have got our backs. They won't get through here.
They both lament the colleagues lost, and another has just been injured. Russia isn't done here yet, but neither are these men, and neither is Ukraine. Quentin Somerville, BBC News, Kharkiv.
Так виглядає незалежна. Так виглядає Україна, наша земля. Дана Богом, цілована сонцем, заколисана вітрами, загартована вогнем, захищена своїми синами і доньками. Так виглядає Україна. Побачивши раз, закохайся. Побувавши раз, повернися. Так виглядає Україна. Ні з чим її неможливо сплутати. Нікому її неможливо віддати.
This is the battle for Kharkiv, as seen by those who fought it.
Виходим! За машину!
The Kraken battalion are taking fire near the village of Ruska-Lazova. This previously unseen footage taken last week is a window into a critical operation to reclaim territory from an enemy at the gate of Ukraine's second city. We travelled with the Kraken unit into the same village.